My name is John Hoffman. I'm a state senator from Champlain, Coon Rapids, and Brooklyn Park, Senate District 36. And back in 2014, Senator Fongher and I and Senator Dietzich, and of course Representative then Abler and Senator Eaton, we were all part of seeing this peaceful vigilance that this was going on over a weekend. Peaceful protest out in front of our state capitol. And the folks that were there were bringing highlight to some human rights violations in Ethiopia. And specifically, at the time, our Secretary John Kerry was over there discussing the rich history of the prominent relationship that we have with the Ethiopian government and the United States. And there was 85 college students. Imagine this, back in 2014, 85 college students peacefully protesting human rights violations in a soccer stadium. They were all shot and killed because of that. And it dawned on me that these children, these youth that were shot and killed, were our children, our sons, our daughters, our folks that were in college. Imagine that just because you peacefully protest. And it just, to this day, it still bothers me to think that we all could go out on University Avenue and tell, the MnDOT or whatever that these lights that they put up on this road are really terrible and stand there with signs that say change these lights. And there's one thing we're not going to get is shot by a bunch of military people. And so that caused us to do this first resolution, which then at the time Congressman Emmer and Congressman Keith Ellison put together and did H.R. 14, which then opened up the doorway to getting the heightened awareness of the unrest that's happening in Ethiopia and the human rights violations. So we thought things were going to be better because in 2018, after our resolution was done and after H.R. 14, there was a great movement to get peace and justice. And in 2018, we welcomed for the first time in the state of Minnesota, the Prime Minister and his attaché, an Ethiopian jetliner landed right here in the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport. We all greeted him and greeted his entourage of folks. And they talked about, yes, we are going to do peace, we are going to do justice, we are going to move forward. Well, in 2020, that didn't happen. We had to do another resolution. And Senator Dietzich, who is here with me and was part of that, Senator Herr, Senator Eaton, Senator Abler, we did another resolution that clearly spelled out, again, human rights violations that are happening in Ethiopia. And why are we here today is because one of my friends, one of our Minnesota residents, Jawar Mohammed, is now in a prison without any due process rights. Due process rights, something we take for granted in Minnesota, while his wife, a Minnesota citizen, and their son, who, by the way, I was just looking at a picture, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan has a picture with little Oromo a couple of years ago. He's now 5 years old. Somebody who goes to school in Minnesota, somebody who is in Minnesota, somebody is Minnesota. And I think it's time Dad comes home. I think it's time he comes home, and that we have a whole bunch of things we're asking for. And there is a letter, you all probably got a copy of this, that we sent to our members of Congress, and I'll just quickly highlight those, and then I will bring in Tashidi Wako to give us a little bit of thoughts, and then we'll turn it over to Senator Fongher, Senator Abler, and Senator Dietzich. But following the unrest in Ethiopia after the assassination of Oromo singer and activist Hakula Hundessa in June of 2020, there were thousands of Oromos that were arrested, including our Minnesota resident Jawar Mohammed and other Oromo opposition leaders. The Ethiopian government is now preparing to hold elections in June. However, the Oromo political parties are not allowed to participate in the elections and are also facing harassment from the Ethiopian government. What we want is free and fair election, and that requires that opposition parties to freely participate for citizens to safely vote. But here's the thing. Jawar Mohammed, along with others, are on the 24th day now of a hunger strike in a Kalita prison. And they assert that they started this hunger strike because of the worsening political condition and the derailed transition to democracy. And so there's a list of things that we're asking is that the U.S. Embassy in Ethiopia do a wellness visit of Jawar, Mohammed, and other political prisoners, ensuring that they receive adequate medical attention, that we publicly call for humanitarian attention to the situation, and that these leaders are being denied medical care. And we call for Secretary of State Anthony Blinken to urge Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to address the prisoners' demands. We need to also call for the Ethiopian government to free these political prisoners because they are there without due process rights, something we value in Minnesota. Minnesota values that. We demand a credible and independent, transparent investigation of the murder of Hakalu Hundessa and those human rights abuses that are still happening in Oromia. And those individuals need to be held responsible for the gross human rights violations that are happening in Ethiopia through the appropriate mechanisms, including targeting sanctions pursuant to the Global Magistrate Human Rights Accountability Act. In a nutshell, I could go on, but we want Jawar to come back home to Minnesota. The dad is missing, the husband is missing.